Peter Mansbridge has made a career out of telling other people's stories, which by his own estimate, by the way, means he's done around 20,000 interviews. Yeah, 20,000. Of course, that includes high-profile newsmakers and celebrities, but it also includes the people who aren't household names, but maybe should be. Ordinary Canadians doing extraordinary things. Peter Mansbridge is highlighting a few of those extraordinary Canadians for us this morning, and he joins us from Stratford. Good morning to you.
Hey, Lindsey, great to talk to you. Thanks for having me on.
It's so great to talk to you, too. I'm so curious about your process of how you were able to uncover the stories of these extraordinary Canadians to write about.
Well, the thesis was exactly as you just outlined it. We didn't want, the celebrities, the name makers who we've talked to over the years. So my co-author, Mark Bulgich, and I kind of sought out people who weren't extraordinarily well known, but who were doing extraordinary things. And, quite frankly, it didn't take long to find them. They're all people of courage and determination and resilience, and from different walks of life, from different parts of the countries, from different backgrounds. And they help tell a story not only of themselves, but of our country.
I want to highlight a couple of those that you've highlighted in the book. Tell us about Nadine Karr.
Nadine Karr is a surgeon in Prince George, British Columbia, but it goes beyond that. She is the first female Indigenous surgeon in Canada. So she's been through a life of a lot of firsts in terms of her accomplishments at UBC, in the States, in Canada, at a number of different universities and hospitals. But she's also encountered racism on a very direct way as a result of her being Indigenous. And it's a couple of moments in her life that have helped shape her career. And we tell that story because it's one of, once again, courage and determination, resilience to ensure that she's looked at as a doctor and nothing else. And so it's a great story, hers.
Pat Danforth has been advocating for people with disabilities for 50 years. Pat actually sat in on Robert Latimer's trial. Tell us about Pat.
Pat is an amazing person. She, on her 21st birthday, was in a terrible car accident and lost the use of the lower part of her body. She compares herself to a mermaid, which is a beautiful way of trying to confront the issues she has, the challenges she has in her life, that neither her nor her mermaids that have always been a part of her life, even since she was a child, can stand on dry land. And yet they both have an image that is one that is to be admired and respected and learned from. And that's Pat's story in a nutshell, but it's much deeper than that, obviously.
Peter, obviously, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, which has been devastating for so many Canadians. We've seen increases in the number of deadly overdoses, especially in BC, which brings us to the story of Moses Lee.
Moses Lee is at the front lines, so one of those people that we talk about so often on the front lines of the healthcare system. He's in Vancouver. When Mark and I agreed to do this book, Simon & Schuster, it was last year they asked us to do it, and there was no pandemic, and we lived a much different life. And yet, by the time the book was due, which was March, we were into the pandemic. And both Mark and I knew we wanted to profile somebody who was dealing with this issue. And Moses Lee became a great subject for us. He's been around the world, he and his wife, and for different causes over the years as a nurse. And he's saved lives. He's been a part of dealing with big issues in the past, and now he's dealing with the greatest challenge of his life in terms of dealing with the pandemic. And he's going beyond the function of a nurse, but he's also helping the hospital he works in Vancouver to understand some of the new ways that the healthcare system can help deal with patients who are confronting COVID-19.
Wow. Well, Peter, I can't let you go without getting your take on the current situation in the U.S. I want to ask you quickly about, you had a front row seat to history for 30 years with your broadcast career. What are you thinking when you see what's happening with President Trump refusing to concede his loss and his claims of voter fraud at that?
Well, yeah, well, he's certainly making those claims, and now he's going to have to actually prove them. My own feeling is that this will unwind over time. He had to deal with over the weekend the realization that he lost in terms of votes. But he also had to deal with a much deeper realization, and that was all the people he thought were his friends on the international stage were abandoning him. And within literally minutes of the declaration being made, he lost Macron, Merkel, Johnson, even lost Netanyahu, who he thought was his greatest friend on the international stage. All of them, approaching Joe Biden and saying wonderful things about Biden and looking forward to working with Biden. Mm-hmm. That must have stung, even almost as much as the vote loss.
Peter, it is so great to talk to you this morning. The book is called Extraordinary Canadians. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Lindsey. Really appreciate it.
And Anne-Marie says hi.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.